Is there a sign? Oh yeah, it says
Very cool.
the broadcast is live. Hello, everybody.
Hi,
Right.
Lucy.
Well, my name's Simon Duffy. I'm from the Centre for Welfare Reform, and I'm the chair for this hour-long discussion on supported employment. This event is brought to you by many, many people, but it's part of the Citizen Fest 2020, which is the global movement to advance equality and the beauty of diversity for all people, which started in Glasgow last year and is this year done in partnership between We Are One, based in Glasgow, and No Labels, No Walls, which is based in Helsinki and Los Angeles. So all three cities have come together to make this new version, this intertwined, complex, beautiful Citizen Fest. I'm also one of the people behind Citizen Network, which is the kind of global organization which is trying to underpin and support the development of a world where everyone matters, absolutely everyone. This talk is also part of a European project, which is called Day Centres Without Walls. Day Centres Without Walls was dreamed up by our friends at Puzzle in Greece, in Athens, and they were really interested in how organisations are starting to emerge that are really breaking down the barriers around what a day centre is and really abandoning the idea of walls and the idea of the institution and their way of containing people, and just starting to explore different ways people can start to be contributing citizens, not just only on their own, but also using peer support and strategies of solidarity and community development and community building. So we should be joined, if all the technology has worked out correctly, by our friends from France, by our friends from Lithuania, by our friends from Greece and Crete, and by our friends from Italy. And this talk will also be recorded and included in not only in the outputs for Citizen Fest, but in the webinar series for Day Centres Without Walls. So that's like quite a lot of introductions to begin with. I think one of the reasons I was very keen, I'm one of the members of the Day Centres Without Walls programme. I was very keen to include Values into Action Scotland in that programme. Because of COVID, the planned trip to Italy, which was all abandoned. So we had hoped to do some real world meetings, and that may still happen, but at the moment, everything is, of course, being done virtually. But Values into Action Scotland is a fantastic organisation. I have no responsibility for how fantastic it is, but I have some responsibility because way back when I was working in Glasgow, I was one of the committee of Values into Action Scotland, and we actually broke away from Values into Action England, as it really was, because we discovered that they couldn't quite get their heads around the fact that Scotland was different to England. And after various attempts to try and explain that Scotland was different to England, we just said this is silly, and so we ended up creating a new organisation, which I was very honoured to chair for a wee while before returning to England and to do lots of other things. But very soon, Values into Action Scotland benefited from Norma Curran becoming its, I don't know, Norma, what formal title you have, but the boss, the CEO, the director, as we call ourselves these days. And Norma brought with her not only real passion for human rights and real sensitivity and creativity, but a boatload of experience in something called supported employment. And so Values into Action Scotland has been a fantastic champion of the idea of supported employment, or more simply, the right of people to have a fully paid, proper job, whatever their disability, whatever their impairment. So I think that's enough from me. So the plan is the guys are going to introduce themselves quickly, and then we've got a kind of film presentation. And then what we're hoping for is that if you're watching this, you will put questions into the Facebook chat discussion, and that we will then be able to respond to those questions in the second half before 11:30. So please, and even if you don't have a question, put something in the chat to say where you're from, because there are lots of people, I hope, from different places around the world. Say Yasu in Greece, or bonjour in French, and again, I've forgotten the Lithuanian, or ciao in Italian, to just let us know you're here, and just making the whole thing more flavoursome. Okay, that's enough from me. So, Norma.
Hi, I'm Norma Curran, and as Simon says, we'll introduce ourselves properly in the presentation video. So for now, I'm CEO of VIAS and really pleased to be here this morning.
My name is John Brown. I'm the Deputy CEO of VIAS, or the Deputy to the boss, if you like, Simon. Liam.
Thank you, John. I am Liam Simpson, and I'm one of the 3 consultants of Values into Action Scotland's consultant for evaluations and training.
Fantastic. So we're going to run a little film presentation, I think, now.
Hi, I'm Norma Curran, and I'm Chief Executive Officer of Values into Action Scotland. I have around 28 years' experience in employability, and my introduction to supported employment was in my first role as a job coach in 1994. I quickly moved into a development manager's role at Unity Enterprise with the responsibility to advance supported employment within the organisation. Around this time, I trained in and became a TSI trainer, a trainer in systematic instruction. For 9 years, I ran one of the first and most successful supported employment agencies in Scotland. By the time I left, we had a significant presence in Renfrewshire. I developed a recruitment consultancy service that successfully helped 500 plus people to gain meaningful paid employment. And as part of the Equal Access Strategy, I developed an employment strategy for people with learning disabilities living in Glasgow. I recruited, trained and line managed a team of staff across Renfrewshire who supported people with significant learning disabilities into employment. We achieved a 50% job retention rate for all those that the project engaged with. I generated a wide range of service funding, creating a project budget of $250,000. During this time, I was involved in the writing of the Diploma in Supported Employment, achieving an Oxford Facilitators Award, and became a development advisor for the qualification. I moved to France for 3 years and continued to be a DA for the diploma during this time. VIAS recruited me in 2009 because of my employment background. They were horrified at the disproportionate unemployment rates for people with learning disabilities and/or autism, and wanted to do something to try and address this.
Hi, my name is John Brown. I'm the Deputy CEO of VIAS. I joined VIAS in 2009 as the Development Lead to develop a 3-year business development plan with the main aim to develop existing services, secure funding and develop new projects that align with VIAS strategic plan. In June this year, I moved into my new role as Deputy CEO, and I currently project manage the BOSS project, Building Organisations to Succeed and Shine, Let's Get Moving, our independent travel project, Triple E, our job coaching service, and Young Scotland's Got Talent Online. My previous employment was with Life Skills Centres over the past 9 years, where I worked on and managed several projects in employability, including the Prince's Trust Get Into Retail programme, Training for Work and Get Ready for Work, before moving into management posts with the Employability Fund, Modern Apprenticeships, individual training accounts across 14 sites in Scotland, and traineeships and apprenticeships in the north of England.
Hi everyone, I'm Leo Simpson and I am a consultant for Values into Action Scotland. I joined the organisation in 2019 in July last year. I wasn't always a consultant. I joined as an administrator, but I've moved on since then to a consultant role. My role within the organisation is to promote high quality training to external organisations to promote autism awareness, HR recruitment and retention, alongside referral lead consultants and our co-trainers.
Thanks, Liam.
Thank you. So what is Values into Action Scotland? Well, there's 2 things that puts VIAS together. In VIAS, we do have a vision, as every organisation does. So for VIAS, our vision is that in a Scotland where people with learning disabilities and their autism have the same opportunities as everyone else and are supported to achieve their goals. And we also have a mission as well. And our mission is that VIAS enables organisations to support people to achieve maximum independence, choice and control. We do this through offering quality improvement services, including evaluation, training, and consultancy to organisations who work with people with learning disabilities and or autism. So that is VIAS.
So I wanted to take a wee step back at this stage because I know that there will be different levels of knowledge about what supported employment is with people that are attending today. So apologies if you do know some of this, but I just wanted to go through what I think are the fundamental principles of good support to help people with learning disabilities and autism to get jobs. So the first part of it is engagement, because a lot of people don't even have employment on their agenda, don't think it's possible, or maybe have been told by others that it's not possible. So you have to find creative ways of engaging with people and to help them start to think about why employment is so important in people's lives, and to address some of their fears as well, because people will come to you with low self-esteem. Maybe people around them have got low expectations of what they can achieve. It might be barriers that organisations that support them are putting up, or even fear of loss of welfare benefits. So it's really important to engage with those people so that they know that employment should be their right and should be their aspiration, just like the rest of the population. The next step is to do what we would call a vocational profile or an employment plan. And that's not about trying to predict success or failure for individuals, but it's about trying to gather a rich picture of the person, what's important to them, what their skills are, what their interests are, and what their non-negotiables are in terms of looking for work. And really spending 21 hours, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, getting to know the person and anyone that's important in their lives so that we can build that rich picture. And that normally culminates in a profile meeting where the what, the where, the when, and with who of the job are determined. And only once those factors are determined do we start to think about what that job might look like for the individual and what employers we might want to target. Job finding is a dual process, but the ultimate responsibility for that working falls to the job coach. So the marketing plan will make full use of people's skills and connections, but also will put onus on the job coach to do some of that door knocking, some of that generating some leads and talking to employers that might not have thought about employing somebody with a disability before, and might need some initial reassurance as to how that's going to work and what support will be available for them. But I would say you're almost doing a dual profile in that you want to match the needs of the individual with the needs of an employer, and each party's needs are as important as each other's. So once we've made those initial connections, we do some fundamental employer engagement, which would normally start with what we call a job analysis, which is where we would go in and learn absolutely everything you need to know about a job in order to teach the person. It involves putting, hands on the task and learning how to do various job roles, and also about talking to people and finding out the more subtle things in workplaces, like what is the culture like? How do people talk to each other? Often your biggest learning in doing that process is not about people's job descriptions, but just about finding out the more subtle things about what happens and how it works for people. We also have a strong emphasis on using natural supports. So as job coaches, we're not in there to replace the people that would normally do the training and support. We're there to complement it and make full use out of it. And from all that, we would create a full induction plan before the person starts that's agreed with the person and their employer. And then we would constantly review that through the training and induction process. So I've touched on that sort of hands-on, one-on-one support once the person starts work in terms of on-site job support, and that's crucially important. And it's also crucially important for the job coach to fit in. So if people wear a workplace uniform, the job coach should wear the uniform and blend in. It's not about making people look different, it's about giving them the maximum chance of being successful in the workplace. And we would do that for a period of time until we felt that we had met the individual's needs as the person learning the job, and also the employer's needs as the person who's learning how to include that person in the workplace. The other part of job support, and I'm quite passionate about, is the whole thing around aftercare. It's not about, somebody gets a job and they're going to be in that job for 20 years or 30 years until they retire. It's about career progression. It's about moving up the ladder. You heard Liam in his introduction there about, he's already had opportunities within his workplace, and we would think all good workplaces should offer those opportunities for people to grow and develop. So it's as much about that as it is about that initial learning of the job. We also, during the training process, do data collection, particularly for things where there might be a risk of safety or a risk of a quality concern or whatever, so that both parties and often parents who can be quite nervous are reassured that we're working on our support in a really systematic way, and in a way that they can trust, that we know and we're happy that everything is working as best as it can possibly do for that individual and their employer.
Thanks, Norma. I'm going to go on and speak a little bit about Project Search. This programme originated in the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center in America, but is now delivered in a number of countries across the world. DFN Project Search's definition of a successful outcome is competitive employment for each Project Search intern. Some are kind of which Norma touched on there as well. That is employment in an integrated setting that is working alongside co-workers with and without disabilities. Year-round work and not seasonal employment, 16 hours a week or more, and paid the prevailing wage. The programme is based in true collaboration among partner agencies. True collaboration requires a willingness among partner organisations to share resources and adapt policies and procedures. The following are active partners, so you would have businesses, education and schools, vocational rehabilitation, community rehabilitation providers, intellectual and developmental disability services, workforce investment board where available, and family members. Project Search is a business-led programme. This means that the students learn relevant, marketable skills while immersed in the host business, and that the host businesses are active partners participating without subsidies. The partners provide dedicated, consistent staffing on-site at the host business. The programme focuses on serving young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities and autism. Braided funding is in place between all partners except the host business. Funding is a reallocation of existing resources. Funding is sustainable, and after start-up, the programme operates without a need for grant funding. The class sizes is sufficient to create cost-effective resource allocation for all partners. There is a total immersion of interns at the host business. That is, interns are on site at the business each programme day for a minimum of 6 hours for an entire academic year. And for adult programmes that are not tied to the academic calendar, the programme operates for a minimum of 8 months, an academic year less the school holidays. A designated representative enters programme data into the Project Search database, and the Project Search graduates receive effective follow-along services to retain employment. Each Project Search programme site is a licensing agreement signed with Project Search Cincinnati through the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center.
So, as I said earlier, when I was brought into VIAS, it was very much because I had an employment background and to see what impact we could, at that time, as a very small organisation, make on the opportunities that were available for young people So when I started with VIAS, I was actually part-time and I was the sole employee. So in a relatively short space of time, we've grown fairly significantly. But in 2010, because a parent that we spoke to was really despondent about what opportunities were out there and trying to get information about how they could help their son to get work. We, in partnership with the Scottish Commission for Learning Disability, came up with an event concept called Young Scotland's Got Talent. And the aim was to inspire young people to dream big about their employment options. And in the main, this was achieved by having a catwalk event where models are young people who have paid jobs and model their work clothes. They're interviewed by the MC, who's a comedian, and this is always a showstopper. Alongside this, there was a series of employment-themed workshops and a marketplace for information. The first event was held at Hampden in June 2010 and was attended by 350 young people, with a further waiting list of 450 people. Feedback was that the event was amazing, but what people wanted was good local information. So in 2011, we began running Young Scotland's Got Talent events across the country, and to date, we've delivered in excess of 20 events, including an online event on the 29th of July, and you'll see an interview towards the end of this that Liam gave for that event. In 2011, we led on the development of a career planning tool. In all the different organisations I've worked with, everyone seemed to have their own paperwork, and it was to match their own needs or their funders' needs, and there was no emphasis on the individual, or not enough emphasis on the individual having ownership over that career plan. So we brought in the best principles of vocational profiling and person-centred planning into one document that young people could use cradle to grave. And that was piloted by Skills Development Scotland and is still used in paper format, but we are in the process of hopefully next year putting that onto some sort of app where young people can have it on their phone. In 2015, we developed My Video CV, and this app was designed to give people information about our training courses, connect them to our social media sites, but most importantly, to help them make their own video CV. A lot of the time, I've found over the years that employers have got all sorts of strange misconceptions about what the person that's coming forward to them might be like and what their needs are, and possibly imagine them to have much higher needs than actually the young people we meet every day have. And we thought a video CV was a really good way of connecting that employer to the individual and the person being able to sell themselves prior to interview. And again, we'll be redeveloping that next year in both Android and Apple. From 2012 to 2015, we had a very strong presence in Highlands and Islands, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Aberdeenshire, delivering My Life My Way, and we did a couple of joint events with Simon in order to promote that. It was funded by the Scottish Government SDS capacity building budget, and I suppose co-productively what we were trying to do is put some of the skills and techniques of systematic instruction and other things into the skills net of personal assistance, so that we could widen the pool of people that can help people to get jobs. Because I think often people, particularly support organisations, maybe less so than PAs, but they'll say, oh, that's not my job. And you think, well, your job is to help the person gain any kind of goals that they want to achieve. And if employment is one of them, then that is your job. But it was to start to change that mindset of how people think about that. And that ran successfully till 2015. In 2014, as part of Diversity Works for You, we built a programme to build employer capacity to recruit, induct and meaningfully include individuals on the autistic spectrum. And that was through the Autism Fund, which is why that was autism specific. But again, it's about we know there's not enough capacity in the supported employment world to support everyone who would want to work. So what can we do to build capacity of families, support workers, personal assistants, employers, so that we widen the pool of people that are available to support people throughout that. And the other couple of pieces of work where we've just been involved in is with Scottish Union of Supported Employment, where we are helping them to pilot a tool to see if it helps people to sustain their employment, and maybe to help them flag up issues before they become big issues, so that they can talk those through with their employers. And we've also recently just become part of a public social partnership to develop innovation in supported employment, again with Scottish Union of Supported Employment.
Thanks, Norma. So I'm going to speak about a recent and current work-related activity. Before I do, there was some work that Norma and the team had carried out before I joined VIAS, and she's probably too shy to say it herself, so I'll say it for her. So Norma and Elaine Adams, formerly of the Scottish Commission for People with a Learning Disability, wrote the systematic instruction unit of the PDA in supported employment, and Norma sat in the validation panel for the qualification. Norma was also invited to sit in the Scottish Commission for Learning Disability Employment Task Group that was created in response to mapping the employability landscape for people with learning disabilities in Scotland. That was research carried out by Cambridge Policy Consultants and published in August 2016. Norma, you touched on it there as well about diversity works for you. That model was to ensure that people with autism could access and succeed in the modern apprenticeship scheme. And I know that there's not many other, if any, projects similar to this, even currently right now, and there's a great need for it. And the project ran successfully with VIAS working in partnership with West College Scotland until June 2019, and 22 young people successfully gained access to the modern apprenticeship scheme. Furthermore, and more importantly, we changed the hearts and minds of employers, the educational establishment and training providers about what is possible for this group. And what I'm going to talk about is some of the projects that VIAS have that are still live just now, starting with the Life I Want, which is for and led by people with learning disabilities. It aims to improve life for everyone with learning disabilities by giving them opportunities to change the way that existing services support them, and by creating and piloting new services or activities where there are gaps in support or access. The project has 5 work streams as determined by the service users, and they are health, relationships, transitions, employment and housing. All work streams that are similar broad activity categories, so that would be improving practice and services, piloting new services or activities, bringing people together and awareness raising. This project is currently funded by the National Lottery until 2022. The employment workstream ran a series of employer engagement events to help young people to market themselves to prospective businesses. They planned, organised and delivered these events, and little did the employers know that the person that invited them, the person that talked to them on the phone, the person that greeted them on the day, and the people who served them at the event were all young disabled job seekers, and employers were blown away by the skills and professionalism. Young people actually left the events each time with job offers in the bag. This project was done in partnership with Glasgow City Council Supported Employment Service, who are also a project search site. An evaluation service also grew out of the Life I Want, although it is now a standalone service. We have the opportunity to evaluate 4 supported employment services, and as a direct result of our evaluation recommendations, Glasgow City Council Supported Employment Service recruited their Access to Work funded job coach, and East Ayrshire Supported Employment Services managed to make the business case for an additional job coach for their team. Last year, VIAS did some work with Renfrewshire Council project search and training and building the capacity of their new job coach. And Norma touched on Young Scotland's Got Talent in the previous slide, and this year we actually managed to take it online in 2020. Young Scotland's Got Talent brings together all the relevant agencies that support people with learning disabilities and or autism, giving advice in employment, offering fun interactive workshops where employers can learn how to connect with these agencies and what support is required to support individuals with learning disabilities and or autism into sustainable employment. The main event of the day is a fashion show where young people with learning disabilities and/or autism that have interesting jobs take to the catwalk and inspire the audience with their experience of overcoming their barriers to find sustainable, enjoyable careers. The partners for this event were the Scottish Commission for People with Learning Disability, and we delivered it in July the 29th in 2020. So during lockdown, VISE delivered this event with some of our frontline workers with learning disabilities and/or autism during COVID-19. We had 9 models who were working throughout the pandemic, including frontline NHS staff and council workers. We also had keynote speakers, including local politicians, SCLD and Fera Scotland, plus interactive workshops in ScotRail, Renfrewshire Council supported employment, SCLD and our very own VISE staff, who delivered workshops on autism and learning disability in the workplace. We also have the BOSS project, which is coming to an end in September, but we hope that this work will be carried on beyond the project. That is funded through the Workplace Equality Fund that's managed by Impact Funding Partners. The purpose of the Workplace Equality Fund is to work with businesses to address long-standing barriers in the labour market so that everyone has the opportunity to fill their potential. So the VISE partners this year were ScotRail. It was a 1-year project. VISE started the project with an evaluation of ScotRail, including job adverts, website accessibility, application forms, both offline and online, interview practices and policies in recruitment and retention. VISE supported our partner to ensure all employment-related practices and documentation were accessible in easy-read format. We also delivered 14 training courses to up to 100 staff. These training courses included autism and learning disability awareness, easy-read training, and HR interview selection and retention. The project was specifically targeted to recruitment staffs and senior managers so that we could influence that change long term and leave a legacy beyond the project. We also offered 1-year ongoing consultancy as part of the project, and as it comes to a close, it looks like now ScotRail are looking to introduce the VISE training package for all new staff as part of the induction process, and also they look like they may partner with Glasgow City Council about becoming a workplace rotation for Project Search, so that would be a good legacy for the project itself. We also have EEE, which is Elevate Equality and Excellence, which is the VISE job coaching service. We launched this in June 2020 during lockdown to support people with learning disabilities and autism to find, secure and sustain employment. The funder is the Robertson Trust, although we hope that we've got a fully self-sustainable model within the next 4 years. The area initially covers Greater Glasgow and the surrounding areas. We have view expanding this service, and the need for it was that it was developed as a result of discussions with local Project Search sites who identified the lack of good quality job coaching as one of the key factors that hinders their success. Finally, Let's Get Moving, which is the VISE Independent Travel Project, is designed to help young people with learning disabilities and/or autism to acquire the skills and confidence to travel on a journey of their choice independently. The aim is for the young person to achieve a specific outcome, to meet a friend on a regular basis, or travel to a group activity or attend college or work. It's also designed to train local support staff in the systematic instruction methodology and thereby leave a sustainable legacy when the project finishes. So the project itself began as a pilot in 2017 called Let's Get Going, where it delivered to 4 support workers before developing in 2019 to deliver to 27 support workers. And this year it's funded by Smarter Choices, Smarter Places, and we will look to deliver to 20 support workers and/or family members even throughout this lockdown period. And finally, in February, we delivered a 2-day refresher course for all Scottish Project Search sites commissioned and funded by DFM Project Search. So that is the existing services. What I'd like to do is I'm going to introduce my colleague Liam again, and we're actually going to play an interview from Liam from the Young Scotland's Got Talent event, and he'll be available for comment afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're joined by Liam. Hi Liam.
Hi, Michael.
Can you tell us a bit about your job and what you do, please?
No worries, Michael. So, if you guys don't know, I'm Liam Simpson. I'm a consultant for Values Interaction Scotland. I mostly deal with the training of the organisation. I co-train alongside one of our lead consultants, mostly with David Douglas, who is a lead consultant, and we deliver a huge range of products and services such as training, like the Easy Read Basics, for any people in any organisation that want their documentations or paperwork to be much more accessible for the people with autism or any other disability out there. We also deal a lot with HR recruitment and retention. So we pretty much get people who are in the line of HR onto our calls, and we give them just information on how to deal with people coming into the organisation, but in a HR perspective. More courses that we do is autism awareness, where we pretty much just raise awareness for autism, just showing the benefits of what it's like to hire someone with autism, what the benefits the organisation can bring, and making it more diverse and everything. So that really is what my role in the organisation is, just for a trainer.
And Liam, how long have you been in this job for?
Well, I started with VIAS I started in VIAS only as an admin assistant, so I kind of had to work my way up a little bit. But I've actually only been in the organisation for a year. So I actually started last July in 2019. So I've been here for a year, and so far it's been the best 12 years of my life, I would say, working for this organisation, because it is fabulous, really, because I'm working with people who are like myself, and it is a real joy to meet other people like you, Michael, a man who's got a condition, and he's a journalist, and he's such a success in his life. I've met David Ross, and he's become a success. Corey Blackwood, he's a success, and so much other people out there with autism who are just becoming more successes within this organisation. So it is a real joy, and I love it. So it really is a joy.
So who can help you get into this kind of job, Liam?
Okay, so how I began it was I was with my family. We were just having a discussion about so what you're going to do after when you leave high school. My initial thought was I was just going to keep going on with college. I did get a placement at a college it was an unconditional offer. I was thinking, should I go for it or should I start looking for work? But so in my head, I was like, right, I just kind of want to start making money, because that is what life is all about, really, anyway. It all comes down to money. So I started looking for jobs online, and my mum told me that, why don't you look for a placement where they deal with people with autism, like look into the third sector. So I started doing a bit of research about it, and I was like, do you know what? I think I'm going to do very well in this sector. So I applied for a couple positions, but unfortunately not that much came back to me. I had the odd one or two for an interview, but I came across this organisation, Values Interaction Scotland, and it looked really progressive, and it looked like a really strong organisation. So we got in touch with Community Jobs Scotland in South, and before later I got a call, I think it was from Nora Curran, and she agreed that I go along with her to a conference. We went to a LinkedIn conference, and she kind of observed me and how I deal in social situations, how I deal with talking to people. That's her idea of an interview, which I quite like a practical interview, because it really does settle myself down, because I've got autism, instead of having a one-to-one interview, which kind of might startle someone like me. So me and Norma were just going around this place, so we're just chatting away, and Norma obviously saw something in me, and so she called me, I think it was about a week or two later. She called me up and she said, listen, do you want to come to VIAS and have another chat? And then before later I got, I think it was another email or another call just saying, we would like to welcome you on board to VIAS as an admin assistant. And it blew me away that she offered me that without for an interview, but it really is fascinating that she would do that for me. So I'm very thankful for her for that.
Sure. That's good. So Liam, would you say that your jobs kind of help your confidence in a way?
It really has helped my confidence, yeah, because when I was in school, I wasn't really the most outspoken person, I was kind of like in myself. I was like a snail in a way. I was trapped in my shell. I couldn't really speak. I couldn't really do that much. But getting out and about in like Glasgow and meeting new people and doing a lot of complex and like work in bias, it really has like broadened myself into becoming more mature, like more adult, and it really has helped me a lot, and it has progressed myself.
So, what would you say to other people watching this with a learning disability, but they're trying to get into work? What would you say to them that the best part of getting a job is?
The best part about getting a job, well, first of all, if it was an informal conversation, I would just tell them, well, get a job, get some money, and then go the long way. But for people with autism, I would say don't be afraid, because in this day and age, we live in such an equal world and such a diverse world that they would hire anyone. So don't think yourself as that part of the circle that can't get a job or nothing. You're more than capable of getting a job. Like Michael, you're a journalist. Like I said before previously, you're a big success in life. Other consultants, they got a job and they turned out to be successes, and I didn't want to be that part of there. So I convinced my friends and other people that I know you guys have got autism, but you really should start looking for a job. And they were like, but what would they say about my condition? Would they not accept me? But no, that's not true, because in this day and age, autism is actually a gift and a talent. People with autism, they have so much knowledge about things. Like, they can be really bright and clever about trains. They can talk to you forever about trains. They can be really smart about stuff like finance. They can talk to you forever about finance. And if you go to a job and say, I know a lot about finance, and then they're like, well, you know so much about finance and you're autistic, but come work for us straight away. So it's stuff like that. People with autism, they really are keen to work and everything, and if they got their mindset set on one thing, like finance or administration, offices will really want to hire you. So don't be shy, just start looking online.
Right.
Hello, everybody. All right, we're back. Thank you so much. That was brilliant. Obviously, you prepared that in advance, and it was a whole ton of information. And one of the things about that really blew me away, I didn't understand how much stuff you've done over not really that many years. So lots of different systems and funding streams, and that meets all sorts of questions that raise for me. And then we've had some great questions come in during the presentation. But I just wondered whether, I mean, you'll have had a chance to look at the questions, but I wondered one thing that I'd like to maybe just bring out a bit more we've only got 15 minutes really, is maybe if you could just share a story or two from all this experience about what having a job has meant in people's real lives. So less the system stuff and more just from a human point of view. What are you seeing? Could you give an example that shows, in a way, the value of real work? I mean, Norma, would you like to kick us off?
Well, I suppose for me, there's one person who's sort of sat on my shoulder for most of my working career, and that's a man who's no longer with us, called Willie White, who at a very young age went into care, and at the age of 12 was moved from a care setting into Lennox Castle, where he then spent the next 40 years of his life. Came out of Lennox Castle with no more possessions than a sort of inmate based on picture and a side picture, and that was his worldly possessions. And I met him, and we helped him get his first job in Safeway as a trolley porter. Now, a lot of people might think that's not much of a job, but it's a job that needs done, and it's a job that he was really good at, so much so that when he retired, before that, when I was in the queue one day, I heard a woman saying, oh, it's that sour-faced one that's on today. He's not like that other guy, Willie. He's lovely. And I thought, she's seen the person, the personality, she's not seen the disability. And he was just always so joyous and so happy to be part of society and not bitter at all. And I couldn't get my head around why he wasn't angry. Retired from that job. We couldn't get him away from putting the trolleys away that day to do the photo shoot, but we got that done eventually. And then went on to be a traffic patrol officer for a number of years. Until he retired, and we put him up for an award, for the Provost Award, and he turned up that night with his suit on and his plastic bag in his pocket, and I said, "Willie, you might not win." He said, "I will." And you know what? He was right and I was wrong, but he just taught me so much about life and about just how he dealt with things and how much the opportunities that came to him very late on in life. His first job was when he was 57, but he just embraced it with open arms, and he'll sit with me forever.
That's brilliant, Norma. John, do you want to share an example?
Yeah, I love that story. Norma told me that actually when I first started with Vice. So I joined Vice in June 2019, like I said in the presentation. It was one of the first things that Norma had spoke to me about, which was really important. I could see the passion that both came from Norma and Vice on supported employment in general. But my experience comes with actually working with the Vice staff, and Liam in particular, who's joined us just now. And I know he doesn't get embarrassed by this because we do speak about it a lot. And Liam came in with Norma on Duo Day. Spent one day, Norma was that impressed that she wanted to bring him in to see if he could join the team and how he would actually fit in with Vice services. And in just over a year, Liam has went from the admin assistant to a co-trainer. And then lockdown happens in March, and most people started to panic because we couldn't deliver a lot of services in person. Liam and the rest of the trainers took everything online. Now, he's actually presenting, doing the tech support for StreamYard today for the whole We Are One event. He delivers the training. Even through that whole period, which is the bit that's not spoke about a lot, is he actually finished his modern apprenticeship, SVQ level 2, at the same time as having to do all of those things during lockdown. And if I'm right in saying, Liam, that was 3 months before the scheduled end date that was set out at the start of the assessor. And yeah, it's just amazing to be part of it and see it every single day, the growth. And I know his dream and his goals are to become the chief exec, which he'll speak about, and Norma better watch over her shoulder. But yeah, so it's been really great to be part of this journey.
Thanks, John.
So Liam, you talk about me now.
Liam, what I mean, is there somebody
Oh, sorry, Simon. If I was going to talk about John, we'd be here until 9 o'clock at night. But I do have some more people on my mind right now. But sorry, Simon.
Just that really. In terms of, you talked a little bit about the impact of inspiring other people and being inspired by other people. But I just wondered whether there was an example you wanted to share.
Yeah, I mean, I won't talk about myself, but obviously John talked about me. So thank you very much, John, for that, and you as well, Norma, for your example there. But I do have one person in my mind who I've known for quite a bit. I like to talk about Jordan Allen, and for myself, he is kind of like the living embodiment of work in a way. He's very successful in his life. When I first met Jordan, I just assumed that he was just some office trainee and all that. But when he told me all about the stuff that he did, I was just so bizarre about he was very young, and I was just amazed about how this young person achieved all his goals and all his dreams in just a short matter of time. He completed business admin at level 2 and also at level 3. So that's quite a big qualification to have for such a young person. And that is something to admire. For a young person, you should really keep on going with the education and get having that education boost can really maybe lead you to somewhere, because work hard. And when it comes to maybe start doing stuff like Norma did, starting a company, you do have to work super hard. And yeah, and for Jordan,
he started, like myself, as an admin assistant with Norma at Violence into Action Scotland, which was a lot different back then, of course, because it was quite some time ago, unlike now because of obviously COVID-19 and everything. But he started as an admin assistant, and he worked his way up as well, because nobody wants to be stuck in the same job, don't they? Unless for some reason that's your goal. You just want to get a job and just stick at it. But I would say about 99% of people don't want that, obviously. They want to achieve higher in the goals, and they want to achieve higher in the ladder. So Jordan wanted to move up a step. So he moved up slowly and progressed with all the amazing work and achievements that he's done for Bias. He's done a lot of things like training, promoting workshops, aiding Norma. So all of that. So sooner or later, he became a consultant for the organization. So that is actually a major role within Vias, next to lead consultants. Then after that, that's when I kind of started to meet Jordan. But before that, Jordan actually met the love of his life at a work stream called the We Are One. You can learn more about that on our Facebook page if you want. But yeah, he met Roxanne at a work stream, and that is when I started to meet him. So he had a girlfriend, and he was a consultant, and that's when I met him. But sooner or later, after only about, I can't remember when he actually left again, but it was only about a few months, and then he sadly told us that he's going to achieve his goals much more further now. This is the point that I'm getting at. Jordan wants to keep on going. There's no point in stopping or going back. There's no way for that. So it's always about going forward in your career aspects. So Jordan just told all of us that he's going to become a director. And that is something to admire. Jordan wants to achieve higher and go for all these titles. So there's something to really admire. And he's obviously, like I say, he's worked super hard, and that's something to admire as well. I know I keep on going on about it, but that's just something to really look into. So if you want to become a success in life, you don't expect things to be handed out to you. There's going to be a lot of hard work to do. A friend once actually told me, when it comes to working hard or maybe starting a company, it's like eating glass and staring into the abyss. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a long road. But once you've worked hard at it, expect great things to happen, just like Norma did. She's probably gone through all that, as well as John with the way he came along. And obviously, I think Simon as well, I would say. Yeah. But yeah, just work super hard and expect great things to come out. So yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Liam. So actually James's questions just come up. There were like 2 or 3 questions I want to pick out, and we've a very short time, so you need to kind of maybe just respond quickly. But I was going to start with James's. In a way, the other extreme, really. You've gone through some of the different systems, the approaches to supported employment, different strategies, different funding ideas. I think James, like me, was wondering, like, well, if you had to really pick one, I know you don't want to have to just pick one, but if you did have to pick one approach or one strategy that's really feels like the most fruitful at this point in time, what would that be? I mean, Norma.
Well, I suppose it's two-pronged, and it also possibly answers John's question, John from Nairn as well. I think fundamentally the thing that works and has been proven to work is the person-centred approaches of the supported employment process. And my frustration is that that's never in the UK and in Scotland been taken on and looked at in a strategic way. So we have lots of pockets of great practice all over Scotland, but it's never been pulled together in a strategy. And that's very much my frustration, is that it needs to be a national strategy that's implemented. And that is why, John, I'm really frustrated for your situation. So John had basically said that he's not getting the kind of person-centred support, and he's getting slotted into services that don't really meet his needs. And I would urge John and anyone else who's feeling that to join our Young Scotland's Got Talent campaign, because that is very much about campaigning for a national strategy that is person-centred and works for all. So I that hopefully answers both questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
I heard John doing a presentation yesterday who commented as well, and I just want to say his presentation was great and it was very powerful to watch. He was actually delivering a myth-busting session on employment for the Scottish Commission for People with a Learning Disability yesterday, and to hear his story of attending college for 7 years and then a number of unpaid work placements where he highlighted in his presentation that the support wasn't quite there, Norma, you know, from the employer as well, because they didn't have that support in place. And he was in a place where he wanted to work. He actually got there and it fell apart because the support wasn't right. And to hear that yesterday was quite heartbreaking, you know. So
yeah, thanks, John. Yeah. Well, and there was another question from Amanda, which was about self-employment. And that made me think about my friend Wendy, who's a woman with learning difficulties who I've worked with a lot around developing the keys to citizenship. And she's self-employed, but she, I think, lacks this, again, like she has lots of skills, but there's some stuff that she could just do with to help things become a bit easier. And we've struggled to really figure out how to get that. Have you thought much about self-employment? Because there are, you know, millions of people are self-employed, and it's another way of getting work with status, isn't it?
mm-hmm.
Well, if it's something that the person really wants to do, then I'm fully supportive of it. And yes, I've supported a few people over the years to successfully be self-employed. One of my concerns is sometimes that people push people towards self-employment when they don't really want it because they think that's an easier option. And it so isn't, as Amanda will tell us, and Wendy as well, that, you know, you have to be a bookkeeper, a marketer, you know, there is so many jobs within it. But if it's something that's someone's aspiration, then yes, I would truly support it. And the other little known or little used thing is access to work. So I know someone who has their own pet food business who employs someone through access to work to be their driver because of their visual impairment. They need somebody to do the deliveries. And I think that's something that could be used better for people who are self-employed if there's certain aspects of that self-employment that they just don't feel they can do and that they need some help with. So I think that's something that we have to promote and use much more.
So I'm mindful we've got like 3 minutes left. So maybe, and we've got an audience which includes people from all countries around the world. And so have you got each like one little final message of encouragement or just a thought you want to share with the world?
I would have to translate her a lot, but sorry, I'll let you go first, Noah.
We have to do better. We have to do better. And I still hear, I see things that I saw 20, 30 years ago that I thought I genuinely thought when we brought supported employment to Scotland that we would not be having these conversations now because people in workplaces would just be the norm. And it isn't. And I really think we have to do better. And that's at a national level. We all can do things as individuals, but we have to campaign and really make our voices heard that things need to be better, you know, at a national level in all the countries throughout the world.
Yeah. Just to kind of echo what Norma said, for me, I look across the national programmes for non-disabled people, and there's huge investment there, and even for the self-employed, there's all of these things available, and less so for the supported employment model. Norma touched on it, there's pockets of great work happening, but that needs to be taken on and rolled out at a strategic level. And to the individuals, organisations and individuals, is to continue to fight for that, and for the individual themselves never to give up as well. Because we know enough people want to work, there's just not the support there to allow them to do that.
Thanks, John. Liam, you've got the last word.
One last thing before I go. The hashtag Liam for CEO is something that might catch on that somebody's coming.
Okay. Well, Liam, you've got that last word, but I think it has to be under 30 seconds.
Obviously, just to back up what Norma and John said, obviously the work doesn't stop here. We should never stop working. We should always continue to achieve our goals, and we should always continue to work and progress. We need to make sure that every employer in the world has got at least someone in their organisation with additional support needs or has autism, because they can bring so much into the workplace. Just like myself, well, I hope in Norma's eyes and in John's eyes that I have achieved so much, and I hope I'm living up to the expectations that they're expecting from me. So just one more last thing, just obviously work hard and achieve your goals. So there.
Brilliant. And brilliant timing. We're at 59 minutes and 53 seconds. So I think we can hand back to the festival. Our job is done. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody who's attended. It's brilliant. And we'll share this online later.